Today we're going to be looking at cadences and how to write them. So there's a few different types we're going to look at. We're going to start with the authentic cadence. And just for ease of writing and thinking, we're going to write this one in C major. So I'll start out with my treble clef here and recall that the C major key signature doesn't have any flats or sharps. So we're good to go without any flats or sharps there. So the first one is the authentic cadence, and the authentic cadence is one that goes from 5 to 1. So we'll start out by thinking, okay, what is my 5 chord in the key of C? So to figure that out, we count up to the 5th note of the scale in C major and find G. Therefore, our 5 chord is a G major chord. We can label that with the 5. And then our 1 chord, which in the key of C is our C major triad. So just like this, that's our authentic cadence. However, we don't typically play it this way. And actually, you know what? We need one more note here to make this a 5-7, because right now it looks like it's just 5, but I labeled it with a 5-7. So we're going to add the interval of a 7th up above this note. There's that 5-7. Okay, so we don't typically play it like this, moving our hand around like that. So we're going to invert this chord into a shape that's easier to transfer into the 1 chord. So we know the 1 chord is going to stay the same, because that's what we're going to kind of base all of our chords off of. So our 1 chord remains the same. And then we're going to take these notes and put them as close as we can to these ones here so that it's easy to play from the 5-7 chord to the 1 chord without a huge hand movement. Now, oftentimes when we have a chord with 4 notes like this 5-7 chord, we eliminate one. And the one that we eliminate is always going to be the 5th of the chord. So here's G up a 5th. So we're going to be eliminating that D. Having a 4-note chord can be a little bit more than we need to make it sound full and correct. So we just drop out a note to make it a little bit easier to play. And it doesn't really lose the quality in the sound. So we're looking for a G that's close to this chord. And that G is already there, so we can keep that same G. That one's easy. We need a B. We're going to take the one that's just below middle C. That one's pretty close by. We said we were going to eliminate the D, so we can skip that. And now we're looking for the F, which is just in between the E and the G that we already have. So we'll put that there. And that's our 5-7 chord. But in this case, since we changed the order of the notes, this 5-7 chord is now in an inversion. So we need to correct this inversion symbol so it reflects what we have written here. And I'm actually going to move this note up a little bit on the page so we have just a little bit more room here. There we go. And it can be directly under. Okay, so to know the correct inversion symbol, we just have to measure some intervals. So we count from the bottom to the top. So from B up to G, that's a 6th. And then from B up to F is a 5th. So that's our 5-6-5 chord. So it sounds very similar to this, but since it's scrambled up in that inversion, we have to label it with a different chord symbol. So again, this is our authentic cadence. All right, the next one we're going to look at is the plagal cadence. We're going to keep it in C major. And the plagal cadence goes from 4 to 1. So our 4 chord in the key of C is F. And then our 1 chord in the key of C is obviously C. So these are both in root position. We don't have any inversion symbols, just like that. But like this one, we're going to scramble them up so that they're closer together. Again, we're gonna kind of base everything off of the one chord. We're trying to make it easiest to play the one chord. So that one we're gonna keep the same. Just transfer that one over. Give it its label. Now we can scramble those notes up to try and get to those ones easily. So we need to have an F, which is right in between the E and the G that we already have. That one's easy. We need an A, which is right above the G. It's not too far. And then we have a C, which we already have, so we can just bring that over. So there's our 4 chord. But again, just like the 5-7 chord, it's in that inversion, so we'll need to measure those intervals. So we go from the bottom to the top, from C up to A, that's our 6th. And then from C up to F is a 4th. So that's the 4-6-4 chord. And that's how the plagal cadence works. So the next one we're going to look at is the half cadence. The half cadence goes from 1 to 5. Again, we'll keep it in the C. So our C chord is like this. And then the 5 chord, of course, starts on G. So there's our G chord. Okay, so it's kind of the same process. We're going to keep the 1 chord as is and bring the 5 chord over to match it. It could also be a 5-7 chord. It doesn't particularly matter. We'll make it a 5-7 chord just so that it stays consistent with the one up here. So we'll add that 7 and add the interval of the 7th. Now, the chord that we're about to find here, the inversion of this chord, is going to be the same as this one. The order was just reversed. So we're going to have the same notes in the same inversion after this one because they're going to lead to the same, it's going to lead us to the same answer. So the G stays the same. The F is right there. We eliminate the D and we drop our B in. And that's that same inversion, the 5, 6, 5. So this is the half cadence. Okay, the last one we're going to look at, I think it might be my favorite. This is the deceptive cadence. And the deceptive cadence has a couple variations. The main part of it is that it goes from 5 to 6. But if you notice, all of these other ones have 1 involved in some way. And 1 really establishes a key. And so to have a cadence without the 1 chord, it sounds a little bit empty and a little bit confusing. So while the deceptive cadence only really requires 5 to 6, we're going to add a 1 in because having that 1 in there is going to really make us feel like we're in a specific key. So for this deceptive cadence, we're going to go from 1 to 5 to 6. So there's our 1 chord, again in the key of C. There's our 5 chord. And then here's our 6 chord. Now, you may have noticed that along the way, I haven't added any sharps or flats. No accidentals have been added because the key signature takes care of deciding any flats or sharps we need. And in this case, the key signature is no flats or sharps, so we haven't had to add anything. And up to now, all of the chords we have found have been major. Because if you find the notes of a specific chord in the key of C, if they're 1 or 5 or 4, they've all led to major keys. However, now that we're looking at the 6th chord, that's not going to be the case anymore. We're not going to add any accidentals because we're just relying on that key signature, which is no flats or sharps. But we do need to notice that this is not a major triad. A, C, E is a minor triad. So in this case, 6 is minor. And whenever you're in a major key and you find a 6th chord, it's always going to be minor. 1 will be major, 5 will be major, 4 will also be major. 6, you're always going to end up finding a minor triad. So now we're going to move this around so that it's a little easier to play. Again, basing everything off of that 1 chord. So the 1 will stay the same. Now the 5 chord, we haven't done this yet. We've only done 5, 7. So we're looking to find a G, which we can just keep the same. We're looking for a B, which is just below the C that we have. And then a D, which is just right here. So there's our 5 chord. But again, we have to find those inversions. So if we measure from B up to G, we find our 6th. And then from B up to D, it's a 3. So that's our correct inversion. Now the next one, the 6th chord, we're looking for A, which again, we could kind of look at this and think, oh, A is right next to B. We could move down, but we're trying to get everything as close to the 1 chord as we can. So from C, E, and G, our closest A is going to be the one right above G, which we have there too. So if you look at only this chord, it kind of looks like the A could be going right here, or it could be going down. But if you consider the 1 chord, really the closest option is to go up. So that's why we're going to choose that higher one. So we have our A taken care of. Now we need to add in a C, which is this one right here. We already had that one from the beginning. And then we need an E, which we also had at the beginning. So there's our 6th chord. Again, we need to measure that inversion. So we're going to be looking for the interval from the bottom to the top, which is a 6th. And then the bottom to the middle, which is a 3. So that's our deceptive cadence. So now we're going to go over to the piano and play some of these. So we're going to set this down for just a second and head to the piano. Okay, so our authentic cadence is first. If we play it as it's written right here, it sounds like this. If we play it as it's written with the inversion, it sounds like this. The plagal cadence is next. Here it is without the inversion. And here it is with the inversion. Here's our half cadence without inversions. And here it is with the inversion. Here's that favorite one, the deceptive cadence. There's that minor sound for 6. And here it is with the inversions. Quite a fun sound. So take a look at these and try and write them in a couple other keys. They're pretty fun to do, and then go ahead over to your piano and try and play them. All right, if you have any questions, let me know.